Hello everyone and welcome to Football Manager 2015. What we're going to show you today is just a few of the new features in FM15 that we're really proud of. There is, as always, far too much to show, so this year we're going to leave you to discover lots of new features yourselves. Hopefully you'll like what we've chosen to show you. So what is new in FM 2015? The first thing that most players will notice this year is that we've completely redesigned the user interface. So everything about FM15 will look and feel different. While some will think, oh, they've just gone back to a sidebar, this is not actually true. This new user interface is a departure from the designs of old, and whilst there is a sidebar, all of the key panels are now located there, which means smaller and more section drop-down menus for each area of the game. The new user interface is much easier and quicker to navigate around. There'll be things that you'll find that have been in the game for a while but were too hidden before. It's also neater and increases the amount of screen space that we can use for those with lower resolutions. An example of the new navigation can be found at the home screen, which acts as the hub for responsibilities, information and actions relating solely to you, the manager. On this screen, you'll find the My Profile drop-down, which has your profile information, achievements and managerial options. Also on the home screen, there are My Contract and My History drop-down menus in addition to the new Promises tab. This displays any promises you've made to the board, fellow managers and players. Now there's no excuse for you forgetting that you promised to give your 17-year-old left-back a run in the first team, alongside a notebook for setting reminders for yourself. There are many different styles of management, and this is something we've been working to incorporate into the recent versions of Football Manager. We've made significant strides in this area in recent years with the introduction of press conferences, narratives, improved media interaction and director of football, all of which allow you to put more of your personality across in the game. For FM15, we've taken this 2 steps further by allowing you to be on the training ground as one of the club's coaches and also increasing the options for you to define what type of manager you want to be. Once you've selected a club to manage, you'll be presented with the option to set yourself up to be a tracksuit manager, a tactical manager, or a mix of the two. If you want to be on the training ground every day, then you'll veer towards the tracksuit manager options. But if you want your players to respect you more off the training ground and get them learning quicker, then tactical is the way to go. As part of this new feature, managers can now define what coaching badges they have and can update their skills during the game. Your level of coaching badge, as well as your past playing experience, plays a big part in deciding the starting level of your attributes. The better your coaching badge and playing experience, the higher your starting attributes level will be. If you're not sure of what level to set yourself, we've added a tick box to suggest your badge and experience based on the club you've chosen to manage. Be careful though, as when you are doing a virtual coaching badge in game, you won't be able to spend as much time with your players. You can then drag the style focus to better reflect the managerial style that you associate with them the most, or leave it in the middle if you see yourself as part tracksuit, part tactical. You can then fine-tune your selection by customizing your attribute points, taking away a point or two from one attribute and adding it to another that you deem more important to your management style. In FM15, you will truly be able to manage your way. We're very proud to be able to announce that the match engine has undergone its biggest facelift since we first introduced 3D in Football Manager 2009. A major part of this is the addition of brand new cutting-edge motion capture data, which helps breathe new life into the matchday experience and takes it to that next level of realism, with over 2,000 new or replaced animations. We've worked with the amazing guys at our sister studio, the Creative Assembly, who very kindly let us use their motion capture facility and guided us throughout the whole project. Motion capture allows us to precisely record the exact movements and motions of players that we can bind to the character models used in the match engine to create new animations. This has allowed us to introduce a raft of great-looking animations covering a wide range of common actions you see on a football pitch, from shots to passes, to crosses and headers, to dives and saves, and much more besides. There's variety and abundance, from different styles of movement, depending on the height of a player and the weight of a player, to different styles of kicks. You'll see more technical kicks, and for the first time, you'll see players using different parts of their foot to make passes or control the ball, such as the inside or outside of their foot or the laces of their boots. There are plenty of subtle touches in there too, including better animations for when a player is dribbling to when a player is closing an opponent down. The benefits of motion capture are huge. and their introduction to FM 2015 is just the start of an exciting future for our match engine in the years ahead. We've also made improvements to the player models. You'll now see the players look less robot and more human, and move and react more naturally according to their size and shape. Goalkeeper animations too have been massively improved for FM 15. We've added more variety with loads of new dives, parries and catching animations. As a result, goalkeepers look more natural than they ever have before. Other new goalkeeper animations focus on their interactions with the ball and their teammates. They look more natural when they're kicking from their hands, show greater variation on the direction and length of their goal kicks, as well as trying to pick out their team's biggest aerial threat. There are also more options for goalkeepers' distribution on the player instruction screen. It's not just animations and player models that have been improved. We've combined all of these with a brand new lighting model that will mean player models now reflect and absorb light based on the weather conditions. A bright sunny day may make them appear more reflective, whereas they will look wetter when it's raining. This is even extended to a brand new in-game sun and sky, as well as the level of dust particles present in the air, which are now tuned to reflect the different weather conditions. It's an immense level of detail for those who have the best graphics cards, but still works and looks great on lower end cards too. The players themselves don't just have new models, they'll benefit from improved depth and shadowing around the edge of their faces, arms and legs. The match ball has also undergone modifications into the way that it's lit so that it looks much better and clearer in all conditions. Ball physics have also been overhauled and improved for FM 15, so the ball now reacts more realistically when kicked and moves more naturally through the air, and of course there have been loads of improvements in player AI too. There's no point in it looking new and shiny if the football itself isn't realistic. On top of the graphical look, you can now issue touchline team talks as well. We see managers often yelling at their players during the match, and these team talks replicate that. They'll work in a similar way to the pre-match, half-time and post-match team talks and allow you to talk to your whole team or to target individual players. There's a wealth of major enhancements and subtle touches that help make the stadiums in FM 15 look more vibrant and varied. For a start, there are many more designs of stadiums, including curved stadiums and roofless stadiums, as you might see in South America and parts of Europe. Corner pieces have been remodelled to include an array of props, including burger vans, bins and different types of floodlights. Around the stadium, you'll also notice tunnels, stewards, jumbo TV screens, ambulances and even personalised club banners. And as an extra level of detail, the stands in the stadium are representative of the colour of the team. These additions breathe new life into our stadiums and help to recreate the atmosphere of the big match. All of these enhancements to the match experience are part of our long-term plan to make our match engine the best simulation of football it can be. There are also more default tactics available to choose from than ever before, so you'll never be short of formations to try out throughout your managerial career. But it's not just you who has benefited from new tactics features. AI managers will now utilise their tactics more effectively than before, incorporating player roles more intelligently into their tactics, and they'll also have preferred roles that they'll integrate into their tactics system. As always, given the flexibility of the tactics creator and the number of formations and player roles that can be selected, there are thousands of tactical setups that can be employed. FM 14 saw an increased emphasis on player roles in team tactics. This year we've taken this on and added 4 brand new player roles, so you can make sure your team is instructed to play exactly the way you want them to. To start with, central and defensive midfielders can now be given a roaming playmaker role, designed for a versatile midfielder who can split their work between the duties of a deep lying and advanced playmaker. Wingers can also now be instructed to play as a Raumdeuter, a sort of wide poacher duty suitable for players who you want to operate on periphery of build-up play. Players assigned this role will focus primarily on exploiting and moving into space when getting forward, so they can receive the ball for a close-range shot or a quick cross from the byline. Taking inspiration from and modelled on modern South American wingbacks, the third new role is the inverted wingback. Rather than staying glued to the touchline when moving forward, players playing this role will cut inside and make runs through the centre of the pitch, either dragging defenders inside or opening up a shooting chance. Finally, if you're looking to get the best out of a creative wide player who likes to roam across the pitch, the new wide playmaker role may be ideal for you. This new role affords wingers the freedom to drift inside and find space to create from a more central position, giving them more options to try and find that crucial killer pass. There are also some new player preferred moves, or PPMs, in the game. For example, for strikers who prefer to do the majority of their work in the penalty box rather than dropping deep or roaming out wide to pick up the ball, we now have the penalty box player PPM. Other new PPMs are refrains from shooting from distance, and for goalkeepers, likes to throw the ball long to start counter-attacks. These new and other updated PPMs have been added to enhance the realism and variation between different players throughout the database. Our aim with scouting for FM 2015 was to make it more effective and to reflect how real-life clubs operate their scouting networks. Think of the scouting section now as the one-stop place to find players. Scouting has been integrated more closely with the player search function, for example. Also, there's a new way to set up scouting assignments with an additional focus on what you're actually looking for rather than the standard location scouting. Very helpful for finding that long-term replacement for your star, ageing box-to-box midfielder, working in a similar way to the real-world ProZone recruiter system that we're involved with. The players that appear on the player search screen are tied to your club's scouting knowledge, so you'll see players from the areas that you've scouted, which is representative of how real clubs work. We've also linked the effects of your club's scouting knowledge to how much information you'll know about a player. So now, when you view the profile of a player that your scouts know about, but don't know that well, rather than just seeing a set of blank attributes, you'll see some of that attributes displayed in a range. If you choose to scout that player, then the range will get narrower until the accurate attribute is displayed. The star ratings of those players will also be ranged. Additionally, well-known players in areas that you've got some scouting knowledge of have more levels of information available without having to be scouted. There's also an increased level of interaction between you and your scouts. They'll get in touch more readily to request that you cancel their current assignment if they feel there are no more suitable players left to scout, as well as suggesting competitions for you to scout, and furthermore, you can now ask a scout to roam around a particular nation instead of just a specific region. Scouts will deliver better feedback when scouting competitions too, giving you a concise overview of the best performing players in that competition. When assigning a scout to carry out an assignment, it's now easier to see your scout's attributes, making it easier to send the right person for the job. You can also scout players for a specific time frame too. So if you have a player that you've earmarked as a replacement for a current squad member, you can scout him for up to 3 months to get a more complete picture. On top of this, you'll also get match reports back regarding that player, as well as an updated report card every week. As part of the changes to scouting, the report card has undergone a revamp. You'll now get a much clearer visual representation of a player's quality thanks to the new pros and cons section. It's not just the player's performance that your scout will take into account when drawing up their list of pros and cons. Everything from their personality, current happiness, and even how well the player will fit into the dressing room will be weighed up before your scout makes his assessment. The scout will also provide an overall summary as to whether it's worth pursuing your interest. Searching for players, and searching in general in FM15, has been made quicker thanks to the introduction of the search bar at the top of the screen. This works in a similar way to an internet browser. Just type in what you want to look for, and a scrollable list of results matching your query will be displayed under the search bar. Simply click on the result that you are searching for, and you'll be taken to that page. As I said earlier, the scouting and player search elements have been brought closer together in FM15, and as a result, we've added a scouted filter to the player search screen, making it easier to call up a player's scout report and to compare scouted players against each other. There are new categories to search for as well, such as being able to search for players who are unhappy at their current club, and you can now search for homegrown players at any club too. In a football world where player power rules, we've strived to replicate this in FM15 with lots of additions and changes with regards to player personalities and interaction. Players can now speak to their manager about a range of worries they may have. It could be concerns regarding the club, such as financial trouble, or more personal problems such as rumours of a new player coming to the club who plays in their position, or when you sign a player and what it means to their future. If they're considering a move away from the club on a free transfer at the end of their contract, you can talk to the player and ask them to reconsider their decision, and if they feel you can offer the terms they're looking for, maybe they'll change their mind. However, if you don't want to keep a player, you can ask them to talk to the media in order to force a move away. They may be reluctant to do this if they still wish to be part of your plans, but if they're as desperate for a move as you are, they'll get straight on the phone to the papers. Another new addition to this area of the game is the ability to talk to a group of players about the same issue. For example, if several players are concerned about the club's financial position, you can appease them all together rather than having separate conversations on the same subject. Allies within the dressing room can now express their concerns for the way you've dealt with their teammates, and there are entirely new group unhappiness meetings to address the concerns of multiple players at once. Managers will have to be a lot more careful about how they deal with the man management side of FM to avoid a full-blown dressing room revolt and the board stepping in to intervene. Similarly, there's also the scope for players to turn against their unhappy teammate and support their manager instead. Players will now approach the manager when learning of a team's interest in signing them to state that they'd like permission to talk to the interested party should a bid come in for them, rather than waiting to discuss it after an offer has been rejected. Players will also be a lot more specific in their reasons for asking to leave, giving the manager a much wider scope to try and talk the player around, incentivise them staying, or negotiate their exit conditions. You can even give a parting comment to players who are leaving the club against their will. You can send them on their way with your best wishes and thank them for their time at the club, or be a little bit more scathing in your evaluation of the time they spent with you. You need to be careful with making promises too. Players may well have career goals and squad objectives over the next few years and beyond. For example, if your young striker is looking to break into the first team squad during the current season and he doesn't achieve this, he could start to consider a move away from the club. The expansion is not just about unhappy players though. A youth player will show short-term happiness when they're exposed to the first team, for example, whether that's from playing their first match or just by making the bench. And if you keep your promises, you can keep a very happy and together squad. The media within the game is deeper than ever, with a wider variety of news stories, lines of questioning, and a greater focus on building media rivalries between managers. We've split media types into tabloid and broadsheet journalists, which provides a greater mix of media interaction and styles. Tabloid journalists will come to you looking for their next big headline to get fans talking, whilst the broadsheets will talk to you more about things like your tactical approach to games and the more analytical side of football. The flow of press conferences has been changed this year, with questions being even more reactive to the answers of previous questions and more headline summaries being produced as a result. This also helps the media to build a perception of how you handle press conferences and how they can approach their questioning. For example, if you're responding angrily to comments about your future, the press will keep poking further to get a reaction, rather than asking nicer questions and giving the manager an easy time, depending on the journalist, of course. On the opposite side to this, if a manager is being confident and open with the press, journalists will avoid asking questions that could stop this openness. Brand new to this year is the introduction of tunnel and training ground interviews. Just like in reality, managers can now be stopped pre or post-match for a few questions in the tunnel to get their thoughts on the match. Likewise, you can be stopped outside the training ground for an on-the-spot question as well. Obviously, you'll only see the tunnel and training ground interviews where they're likely to happen in real life. If a club's matches aren't going to be broadcast on TV in some form, then you wouldn't expect a tunnel interview to happen. This is the same regarding press conferences, which are amplified based on the importance of matches, with more build-up, especially towards the end of the season, should you be fighting from promotion or against relegation. You'll also receive questions on other successes, such as winning the Manager of the Month award, and whether you're worried about the curse that so often comes with the prize, plus questions on your reserve or under-21 sides winning a competition, and what that means for the futures of the players involved. Throughout the season, you'll receive more questions relating to the time of year. There's more variety of questioning during pre-season, and if your previous match was notable, there'll be more of a focus on your previous opponents during pre-match questions and how you will play in response to that game. The press will also pick up on a manager's history against an opposing manager to create rivalries. The media will also question you about your bogey teams and players and how you plan to keep them quiet this time around. In the past, club legends have been able to criticise you without you being able to respond, but this year with FM15 you get to do just that. You can politely shrug off their comments or take a risk and respond angrily, although there's always a risk the fans may not like that. There are new or extra questions around fielding a weakened team in a match, reasons for why you haven't offered players a new contract, and questions regarding your team underachieving. We've also expanded the variety of questions when you have games against rivals, around high-profile signings, it's getting a new contract, and lots more besides. Basically, lots of new questions and loads more variation. FM15 is fully up to date with all the latest financial changes to football. With financial fair play being such a big talking point in football at present, we've made sure the game database is fully updated with all the new regulations and calculations. Top division wage restrictions have been added to prevent you from overspending on wages from year to year, in line with the profitability and sustainability provisions made as part of FFP. You will now also be notified of your FFP obligations in your initial meeting with the board, making it much clearer exactly what is required of you from a financial perspective when you start your career. However, we've also made it easier for you, as in FM15 next season's wage budget is announced to you in advance, so you can plan your dealings well ahead of the start of the new campaign, as the board's intelligence has been improved in many areas. When attempting to sign players for the new season, the proposed new wage budget will be used, and the wages of players with expiring contracts that you have no intention of renewing will not be counted as part of your wage total, leaving you spare wages with which to sign new players. At the end of the season, you'll also be issued with a commercial summary which will run through how much the club has taken in through kit and match sponsorships, the club shop, merchandise, hiring out facilities, and other sponsorship types. This allows you to monitor how your club is progressing, or indeed regressing, over a number of seasons. If your club gets promoted or relegated, you'll see how this affects your income through sponsorship, and likewise, if you bring in a world-class player, you'll see your merchandise and club shop income increase as a result. Improvements have been made to the manager history and manager profile areas of the game, allowing you to define your preferences and keep tabs on the successes of rival managers. The revamped club history provides you with the ability to compare yourself against your predecessors at a club, so you can see exactly how big the shoes you are filling are. It's also clearer to see how long managers last at the club on average, so you can see whether you're joining a club where the axe is wielded on an annual basis, or whether the chairman is likely to give you time to settle. You can also track your own manager history closer with the manager timeline. In the short term, the timeline runs through events in recent seasons and notable results at a club, whether it's a humiliating defeat to a non-league side in the early stages of the cup or a big European comeback. In the long term, you can track all the finest moments and results from your career. The media will take these experiences and use this if similar events take place, like a rematch against your non-league foes. Now, when setting up your manager profile, you have many more options when defining your managerial preferences. You can specify multiple languages that you speak. Likewise, you can select more than one favourite club, both of which are often requested on our forums. The way you play will be a talking point in the press and will be another deciding factor into whether you fit a team's ethos and should be considered for a management position at a club. With this in mind, you can now specify your favourite formations, whether that be a classic 4-4-2 or something a little bit more customised. Job interviews made their debut in the Football Manager series with FM14, allowing you to interview for a vacant managerial position if you're shortlisted for the role. This year we've introduced a whole host of new discussion topics to make these interviews much more varied. Amongst these topics are such things as playing experience, employment history, and how your career has panned out up until the time of the interview. For example, if you're currently managing in League 2 and you're invited for an interview for a championship job, you may be asked why you're looking to leave your current position and if you're ready to take such a large step up the leagues. The further into your career you play, the more detailed and differentiated these interviews will become, as clubs and chairmen will be eager to discuss past experiences such as promotions, relegations, and your track record in the transfer market. All of these new variations to the interviews are intended to give each one a completely different feel and present you with more opportunities to impress the board, whilst providing your own unique immersive management experience. Moving on to this year's changes to training, considering the increased focus on player roles in the latest editions of the game, we decided it made sense for managers to be able to specify exactly which mentality players should focus in when training. For instance, you can now specify that a player should be training as an advanced playmaker with either a support or attack mentality, depending on which you prefer to play him as. Of course, if you prefer to train them more generally in the role, you can still do this too. And it's not just the full-time professionals who will benefit from this year's changes to training. Semi-pro and amateur training is now more realistic than ever, working with a more flexible schedule that takes into account on which day teams have matches and holding sessions in the build-up accordingly. As well as these player-focused changes to training, we've also taken into consideration the way different coaches like to work with their players. As such, we've added 3 new coaching styles: technical, tactical and mental, which can now be set in the data for all staff members and will create more diversity between the different coaches in the game. Coaches who prefer the new technical style will be mainly concerned with the individual techniques of the game, such as dribbling, finishing or ball control, while the tactical style is for coaches who excel at developing tactically aware players, and the mental style is for those who focus more on improving a player's mental attributes and qualities. Of course, if you choose to be a tracksuit manager, you'll be on the training ground yourself as part of the coaching team. You will have seen over the years that many of the advertising hoardings in Football Manager are given over to some of our favourite charities. This year, we're taking it one notch louder with a new charity partner, Movember. Rather than just adding in an ad hoarding, you'll notice that some players will join in with Movember, growing moustaches during November each season. We've even got multiple types of tash and different stages of growth. We'd also like to welcome another partner to the FM family, Twitch TV. For those who don't know, Twitch is a video streaming platform for gamers, connecting players around the world by allowing them to broadcast, watch and chat from everywhere they play. With FM15, you will, for the first time, be able to stream directly to Twitch TV from inside the game, and we really look forward to watching your broadcasts. So with everything that you've seen in the video today and many, many more new features, improvements, updated rule groups, updated data going into the game this year, Football Manager 2015 is sure to be the most immersive and realistic management experience so far in the series. We really hope you enjoy it.